Okay. First of all, good evening to all the viewers. This is our initiative. This is an initiative from contemporary Indian politics, elections, and economy. We have begun this initiative of expert talk, and this is the second initiative. We had taken initiative last week, and I'm sure you would have all known. Our first panelist on expert talk is Mr. Kishore Ramsubramanian. Before we start, we'll give a small introduction on him. He's an engineer with a PG diploma in management. He's working in a senior management position, currently as a vice president, business development in oil and gas industry. He has multiple industry work experience for almost more than 24 years. He has traveled widely to more than 40 countries and has also worked abroad. He was a page admin of Baksala, a very popular Facebook page, and is now an admin of the Frustrated Indian. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kishore Ramsubramanian for you.
Good evening.
So, another admin will be live in a few minutes from now.
Okay.
So, till he comes, maybe we can start off with questions.
Okay.
And before we start, a small piece of information. We have taken this initiative to the group as a part of a group initiative. We have compiled questions from both the members and as well as the admins. So the questions which are being asked are from both the admin team and from the members. So thank you to all the members who have contributed to the questions.
Okay. Good evening, all, and thank you very much for inviting me for this. This is my first experience to be in a hangout like this. It's quite cool, and be in touch with all of you live. And thank you, Nanjesh, specifically for inviting me into this group and giving this opportunity. Let me make some disclaimers first. I'm not an expert. I'm more of a generalist, even though it's called an expert talk. And whatever expertise that I might have, especially in this subject, would be limited to whatever I have picked up from the social media as well as the mainstream media. Secondly, I'm not a lawyer, therefore I won't be talking too much technical into this aspect. I will be talking more of the general points and the issues concerning with this. Neither am I a politician, so I don't have any particular vested interest either way about this. I try to tell you my views of this, and they need not be neutral also. It's personally my views, and I also look forward to get to know more from this about this subject myself. Thank you. So you may go ahead.
Yes, sir. Before we start off, could you please explain the viewers about the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act, also known as LARR, in brief?
Yeah. As you all know, we didn't have anything of this sort till about 2013. When this act was finally made by the UPA government. We used to have a Land Acquisition Act from the Britishers' time in 1894, which was a very generalistic and very simplistic kind of an act, and it was mostly misused in some ways because the Britishers actually loosely defined it that government can go and acquire any land for public purpose, and they didn't define exactly what a public purpose is. So government could technically acquire any land and displace the people and term it as public purpose, and subsequently then do whatever they want with it, including handing it over to private project developers and stuff like that. And we had seen over a period of time a lot of activists taking up issues like the Tehri Dam or Sardar Sarovar or the POSCO issues, or the steel issues, the tribal activists in most of the states, even it extended to some way of encouraging some Naxal movement also, and it created some impediments for everyone except for benefiting some politicians maybe, uh, in terms of acquiring it the name of public purpose and then transferring it for whatever. So there was generally a clamor going over a period of time, uh, which resulted in this LARR coming in finally in 2013. It was a demand not only by the activists, it also was a demand by industrialists, those who wanted to invest into project, uh, even many politicians, the entire society. So eventually, when it happened, it was a kind of a fair attempt to balance many of the stakeholders, so to say, because it included certain things which were absent in the previous act for a long time. For about 60 years post independence, we were living with that old act, and it didn't have, for instance, a resettlement clause or a compensation clause or even a consent clause. So all these things were brought in this act. So that way it's a good. And also uh, it prohibited government to issue notification on a short notice and go and acquire it. The previous act, the collector could just go and announce all of a sudden and go and acquire the land, and that's not possible. You have to give a proper notification, then get consent and all that. It also included social impact studies, assessments, to take care of the environment, the people aspect, and the various other stakeholders who are involved in that. Plus, it also look forward to making a kind of a fair degree of balance between different stakeholders through a consultative process. So this act was generally, all parties had signed it off. However, when you go ahead with an act which was as broad-based as this, from something which is as primitive as the previous one which we were having, there are obviously going to be some lacunae because we are shifting from one extreme to the other extreme. So the amendments which are being now brought in through first an ordinance in December by this BJP government, and now being put as a bill which is under discussion and protest. These amendments which are coming are basically addressing some of the lacunae in the existing from 2013, and then balance it out between what should be certain strategic strategic purposes for the government in order to acquire land and to give some kind of a leeway for. So to sum it up, the amendments which are coming in is a natural evolution of the LARR which is coming to 13. If you were to look at it purely non-politically, in terms of, it's like version 1.1 or even 2.0, whatever you call it. So it's not like this is going back to the old one or being pro-industrialists only. It's just addressing some of the lacunae which were there in the Act of 2000, which need to be corrected. However, politics being politics, it's being politically rallied up and down by different groups, and you all have seen what's happening in the parliament, especially in the Rajya Sabha in this session, where it could not go through. And finally, today we hear that probably because it's going to lapse, ordinance is going to lapse by April 5, they will re-promulgate the ordinance once again and probably take it up in the next session. So to sum it up, this is a little history and what's happened to the LARR in toto. Now we may go ahead with the specifics of it as you ask more questions. Hope
Okay,
I
sir.
could give a brief of that.
Okay. We have seen a lot of dharnas and criticisms against the land bill. So, what do you feel about this dharnas? I mean, what do you feel generally about the criticisms which is being staged against this?
Well, if you look at it purely from a political perspective, uh, these dharnas and protests and all these things which are happening now, a lot of it are politically motivated. Unless we clearly understand the specifics of the amendments which have been brought in, and those amendments to be debated in detail, the specific of those amendments were debated in detail, it's not fair enough to say that this is anti-farmer or this is anti-tribals or anti-landowners. Of course, the opposition has its own agenda to get a handle on it, and they've got a handle on it to take advantage of that, and therefore they're just trying to create a situation by which they can make an issue out of it and gain some political mileage. But if you seriously break down the details of the amendment, it's not that it's as anti-farmer or as anti landowner as it is being projected to be. Some of these amendments are actually some existing acts lacunae being corrected or some defects being modified to make it more pragmatic. So these are to a large extent, in my opinion, politically motivated. These
Okay,
dharnas
so
and
moving,
protests.
okay, so moving on to the next question. We have had the same land bill which was first introduced in 1894 for almost 65 years after independence. It was just amended in 2013. So, with just a few amendments. So, was it more socialistic in nature?
No, it was more crony capitalistic in nature. In if you really ask me, the land bill which was in existence till this LARR come in, you see, in the name of public purpose, government could go and acquire any land, and the people who are displaced were not given any proper compensation. Even though you say it is for development, the areas where they actually acquired development did not really trickle in towards the people who own the land. And the entire act was being many a time misused by politicians, especially from the regional parties, as also from the national parties, depending from time to time. And therefore, I don't think it was really socialist in the nature. Maybe you can say that it was kind of uh, how some of the socialist countries or socialist governments used to deal with that. That means uh, any property can be anytime the government's property by just a notification. From that point of view, it can be called a socialist, but really not people oriented in the sense of being socialist. It was definitely a high-handed act by which government could go and acquire any time any land, and that's why we saw what happened in Sindhu project in West Bengal, or in Sardar Sarovar Dam, or the POSCO issue in. See, this has been a pain in our backside for a long time, and that it's being addressed. So LARR and its amendments in toto should balance all these problems faced by every group who have dealt with it. Even the politicians were not very happy with the previous one. The industrialists were not happy unless they had some clout with the particular political party. in which case it became crony capitalism. The activists were anyway making sound. The people were not getting the recognition, their contribution or their compensation, whatever they are supposed to get. So I don't consider ever that that act was in any way pro people or pro anything except for pro vested interests.
Okay, sir. Next question. Don't you feel that the Modi government is trying to force the farmers into accepting this pro-capitalistic bill?
No, it's a very loaded question. Uh, in fact, it assumes that Modi government is only pro-industry and not pro-farmers, which is not true. I'm not a spokesperson for Modi government, but definitely we can see from whatever has happened so far in many of the policy initiatives, including the budget provisions for social security and all that. There are a lot of pro-poor and pro-farmer initiatives taken by this government. Therefore, to call it entirely pro-industrialist and anti-farmer is not correct. So I don't accept that it is entirely anti-farmer and a pro-industrialist uh, initiative. This initiative, if you look at it, when we come down to the specifics of the amendments, as we go along, we can see that some of them are actually pro-government more than anything else. It's for government, for government's own requirements, and strategic purposes. Some of the amendments have been brought in. Yeah.
Next question, sir. Okay. The entire opposition, which is led by Sonia Gandhi, is standing firm against the land bill. So why do you think the PM is so persistent of bringing this? What change will it actually bring after bringing this bill?
I didn't hear that. What was that? Sonia Gandhi?
Sonia Gandhi and the entire opposition, which is led by Sonia Gandhi, is standing firm against this land bill. So why do you think the Prime Minister is so persistent, and what big difference will this make?
Why do you think Prime Minister is
so persistent on bringing this bill?
Okay, right.
And what big difference will this make in comparison with the old bill?
Right. Okay, the first part of the question we deal with is why Sonia Gandhi is rallying this. If you look at it, LARR initially is made through during the UPA government. Rightly or wrongly, they could not actually project it to take a political advantage of it in the last elections. Obviously, some of these things, initiatives that they brought in, didn't really get carried through because of so many other scams and other things which really pulled them down. So they are utilizing this opportunity now to project, given that there are so many reverses in the recent elections, both in the central elections and also subsequent state elections, including the latest Delhi elections, where Congress is almost decimated. They just wanted to have some kind of a revival back, and this is a good handle they have to say that the bill as they have brought in 2013 is 100% pro-farmer. So any amendment to that, or touching anything on that is going to be anti-farmer. That's the way they are trying to take it. However, what they themselves are missing out is some of the Congress chief ministers themselves had written for certain of these amendments, because the LARR as it came out, when the states started implementing this, they found a lot of problems or roadblocks. So, if you look at the way the Congress has taken up this issue, originally the entire opposition used to rally behind TMC, Trinamool Congress. and Mamta's party in Rajya Sabha, and they were making a lot of sounds in the first 6, 7, 8 months against Modi government. In fact, they and others who were taking it up more strongly than actually Congress. Of late, in the last 2, 3 months, you can see that people like Mamta or Nitish, etc., have softened, given that they also need some support from central government for their states, especially post the coal auction and the higher devolution of taxes in the budget and things like that. Now they are not as strongly opposing the government on many things, like the mines bill got passed very easily with the support of these parties. So naturally, Congress is now uh, trying to fill up that void and trying to take charge of the opposition. And Sonia has now found out this as a good platform to unite the opposition, and this whole march took place and all that. So that's the first part of it. Why the PM is persistent about it? The PM is persistent about it's not about just land bill and compensation and rehabilitation as LARR it is. It's also about land bill reforms. It's a it's an important step towards reform in terms of having a smooth and effective way of bringing in investment into the country. And some of the areas where they had to, the current act is not allowing them to go forward without those amendments. And therefore, they want, because these demands have come in from industry as well as from foreign investors, in the sense that, like infrastructure projects or defense projects and many other projects like that. It can't be just simply for everything gone with social impact studies or the consent process, etc., etc. So some amendments which have been brought in are to address those as well, where government would like to have truly public purpose projects like infrastructure projects going without any hurdle of politically motivated opposition by the farmer or farmer lobby or anyone. So these amendments are part of those reforms, and hence the government want to send a strong signal to the investing community, to the industry, that they are serious about it, and therefore they are very persistent about it. And also they showed that intent by bringing it through ordinance route first, when the Rajya Sabha was not allowed to be function on very trivial issues, like some sadhvi said this, or some Sakshi Maharaj said this, this person said that, etc. People were making so much of issues, and business was not happening in the Rajya Sabha, and therefore the ordinance had to be brought to show the intent. So that's why I think Modi is persistent about it. Having said that, they have done one more revision of amendments based on some feedback which is coming within their own party circles. I don't believe 100% that entire BJP and the Sangh along with that, or their allied partners, including RSS, are fully backing all these amendments. They have some kind of a rift within as well, which is being reflected partly in terms of Modi being a little more soft and open to listen to some of the changes, or he even announced in the Lok Sabha that I am prepared to even consult with anyone to include any suggestions to correct any anti-farmer issues in that. That's also coming in because of some internal opposition from within the party as well. So I think they will finally come down to a, a fair understanding between their own groups first, and then take each party along, and finally go ahead with this.
Okay, I've got my co-admin of the group here. He'll ask the next question, sir.
Sure.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Yeah.
So, as per what you're saying is the reason why Sonia is opposing, is forming the center of opposition for this bill is probably to protect Vadra. And we also know that the CAG has tabled a bill in the Haryana Assembly. And what do you think are its implications on the Vadra Huda land deals?
See, the Vadra scam is not a new one. It's been on for some time. In fact, even uh, uh, AAP or Arvind Kejriwal, when he started his campaign, which the political campaign, at least when he moved over from IAC to AAP, the first thing that he took up was this the scam in Haryana with Vadra's company and DLF and all that. If you remember the officer Kemka who was transferred, who had brought this whole deal down, saying it is illegal, was transferred by Huda government. So the CAG is just now confirmed that the Haryana government had done some favors to Skylighting company or whatever that company which was Vadra's company,
Okay.
plus a few other companies, and they in turn have benefited to the extent of about 200 crores or something in total. All these 3 or 4 companies. One of them is Vadra's company. So the Congress party is now trying to say that timing of the tabling of CAG bill is just to put them back on the spot. However, I personally believe that that has got nothing to do with this. That's just going on in its own speed and pace. And now that it is a BJP government in Haryana, it should rather gather speed in terms of further investigation or whatever into that. Personally, I don't believe that that has got anything to do with what's happening with the land reforms. These are just political checkmating between the two parties. In terms of they saying, okay, your timing is wrong. The other saying, because of that, you are trying to be pro farmer and all that. It's just a political posturing from both sides. Let's not forget that the LARR was brought in by UPA. So naturally, they will have some amount of attachment to it, and therefore they would like to project that was their cause and that was their achievement, and therefore they are more pro farmer or whatever.
In the 2013 LARR, it has been stated as private entities, private companies, sorry. And the recently amended one, it has been mentioned as private entities. How big difference will that make?
Yeah, I mean, that it's again a matter of technical definition, in my opinion, and is by calling it private entities, is just giving a wider scope. That's all, to include even partnership firms and private individuals and trusts and even non-profit organizations, rather than just calling it as only private companies or firms. So it's just making it broad-basing the definition and making it far more inclusive.
Prakash should take the next question. Prakash?
I think.
Hello? Prakash? Suppose his connection is bad, so
Yeah.
coming to the next question.
Carry on.
Yeah. What is the SIA clause and how is it decided?
Well, SIA is a new clause. None of us know what's going to be or how is it going to be. It's a social impact assessment, as they call it. It will be done, I think, by the Ministry of Environmental and Forest appointed committee and a special committee who will go into the various aspects of the stakeholder impact, like not only the people who are affected by the acquisition of the land, but also the flora and fauna and the forest and environment, everything that is connected with it, and they will make a final assessment, which will come through, in my opinion, a public hearing before it is finally accepted. So, in my opinion, it's a good start to take account of these stakeholders' impact, and I think depending on how well it is going to be executed, it can be a good thing as also it can be an impediment. You know, I hope there are no political politically motivated impediments happening through this SIA, or rather use it as a shield to slow down or create impediments and stuff like that. If it is not done, if it is done fairly, I think it's a good one. But we need to go and see how it will be done.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. In the previous bill, if any land was unutilized for 5 years, it should have been given back to the landowner. But it has been scrapped right now. How much necessary was this particular amendment?
No, it's not fully scrapped. What I understand from the amendments is that it has to be returned within 5 years, or any date which is declared at the time of acquisition, whichever is later. Suppose at the time when you are acquiring the land, you declare that you will complete the project by, say, more than 5 years. Suppose it's a long gestation project. And if that date is about, say, 7 years or something like that, then the 7-year will apply, not just the 5 years. So 5 years is not just put as a blanket thing for everything. They said 5 years or any such time period you declare at the time of acquisition, whichever is later. So I think it's making it more realistic and flexible, because not all projects can be conceived and done in 5 years. Some of them can be, and some of them cannot be. Secondly, they also had brought in an amendment to say that the application of LARR 2013 with this compensation and other things will only be done on any of the retrospective projects where nothing has been done on the 5 years, except if there is a stay order from the court, or if the developer or the government has already made some compensation into a deposited or deposited into a designated account. In such cases, the retrospective thing will not apply. So these kind of amendments are just taking into account of certain practicalities.
Okay, sir. And then, won't this amendment make the landowner, who's also a poor farmer, in a weaker position?
Sorry?
Won't the amendments made in the recently amended bill make the landowner, who's also a poor farmer, in a weaker position?
In a weaker position?
Yes, sir. Due to the recently amended bills, regarding the SIA has been removed, and also the
no, SIA is not removed. SIA is not removed in toto. It is only in those five exempted cases.
So the concern is not
or sectors.
So as in those 5 sectors, the consent is not required. So don't you think that this puts the farmer in a weaker position comparatively?
No, these five sectors are what? Let's understand that. One is defense, second is rural infrastructure, third is I had a note of that.
PPP projects, industrial corridor,
affordable housing and PPP projects,
industrial corridor.
Industrial corridors. PPP projects mainly in infrastructure. So these five are the core areas where government has to push through and do certain developments. Like defense is very strategic. You can't be just go ahead dealing with defense related projects in the same way as you do it for a private investment, like a steel mill which is going to be put. So these carve-outs are done only for those kind of strategic things. Even these PPP projects, they have further clarified in the amendment that this will be only central government driven projects, industrial corridors. Rural infrastructure. Rural infrastructure is definitely required for the people. That's one of the biggest problems why rural area is not getting developed. So now, obviously, if you go through, this consent process and social impact studies for some of these things, then it's going to only delay, and some of these things cannot be even implemented within the time frame. So these 4 or 5 carve-outs they have done are essential in order for government also to go ahead and do certain things without much of impediments. If you look at it, really the objection should be for purely private projects and private companies benefiting through this land acquisition by the government without doing any social impact and such stuff. It's not like that. It's only in these 4 areas they have said, we need to have some kind of a leeway. Well, in my opinion, it's a balance between having absolute control over land acquisition in the previous act and then taking into other extreme of getting consent, SIA, and do everything for almost all projects. This is some kind of a balance which is being struck, so that the government also has some hold on some of the key areas, like rural
Yes.
housing. How else do you provide rural housing?
Coming to the last question, the amendment mentions that grievances have to be communicated to the district magistrate, who will then refer it to LARR. My question is, won't this lead to one more layer of babudam?
Well, uh, there's always a pros and con on anything which is coming like an ombudsman thing. Even when Lokpal or Lokayukta was being discussed, this was the bigger discussion which is going on. Uh, I think it's not the question of getting into a babudam per se in this. It's only making sure that certain systems and processes are followed and certain institutional sanity is maintained and misuse doesn't take place at any level. It is more of a regulatory facilitatory mechanism than a pure bureaucratic roadblock. That's how
Yes,
that's
sir.
how I look at it. You need some checks and balances, right?
So, and then I suppose I've answered all the questions and hope all the viewers' doubts are cleared. So before we let you go, what do you feel on this new initiative taken by the group?
Uh, this initiative by you people, I think it's a very welcome initiative.
Yes.
I think most often we are fed uh, by what media, the mainstream media, wants us to be fed, rather than uh, the truth. Truth is somewhere in the middle. It's more of propaganda which happens through the mainstream media, and it's their driven agenda which is what is being fed into us. Or we have half-baked information floating around in social media, again based on you know uh, half truths or political interests or taking sides and stuff like that. This kind of initiative, what I understand as you all have started, is just to get together a group of inquisitive youngsters and other people who want to know more about it. And I don't think this initiative will give answers to all the questions. what this initiative would lead to is definitely make them be more interested, to be more aware, and do more research to improve understanding of the nuances, because everything is not as simple as either this or that. Everything is not either pro farmer or anti farmer. Everything is not so pro BJP or anti BJP, or pro Modi or anti Modi, or pro Sonia or anti Sonia. It's not as black and white as what we see in the, the kind of bucks versus stars and all those debates which take place in social media or even in the media. It's not as simple as that. The reality and the truth are much more nuanced in a very complex society and a complex nation like ours. So these kind of initiatives, if it throws open those nuances, those subtleties, those complexities, and make youngsters be more aware of those, and make them more interested in digging deeper into it with the experience of people who work in industries, who deal with these things on a day-to-day basis. Like working executives like us have to deal with these kind of issues on a day-to-day basis. So that will definitely make them much better aware and armed, and help them to independently think and decide rather than just join a bandwagon. So to that extent, this initiative is very welcome, and hope it will throw open doors for gaining more knowledge.
Again, thank you for joining us as a first panelist, expert panelist, and hope you again accept our invite for a future panel discussions.
Thank you, my pleasure, and I look forward to being a part of this initiative again. Uh, Thank you so much, and have
Thank you.
a good week. Okay.
Thank you. Good night, sir.